they're two girly pops. They can't possibly be attracted to each other. Welcome back, my dear Gaspers, to Gasp, the podcast for the gays, the girls, and especially the gay girls. Per usual, we're talking about some gay girls. And today we're going to be talking about Victoria's Sapphic little secret, aka the theory that Victoria's Secret, the lingerie company, is extremely lesbian, and I feel like no one's talking about it. Victoria has a little secret, you guys. She's a Sapphic. For 5 decades, Victoria's Secret has set the standard for beauty and sexuality in popular culture, and that standard is obviously mostly white, skinny, and straight. The brand has held the role of the arbiters of sexuality, or rather the fantasy of female sexuality, showing girls and women what they should look like to be deemed sexy by the male gaze. Victoria's Secret, although a women's lingerie brand, ultimately reflects our patriarchal and heterosexual society's ideas of what desirability looks like. Can you tell that I majored in gender studies? Because it's giving thesis, right? At first look, Victoria's Secret seems like a company for straights by straights. But with a closer look, with a Sapphic look, we can see the secret held so dearly by Victoria herself. She's a Sapphic. This episode, we're unearthing that secret and diving into the camouflaged lesbian subtext of the brand of Victoria's Secret, the hyper-femme angels, and the VS cruising culture that is hidden in plain sight. So Victoria's Secret is actually named after Queen Victoria, apparently, to evoke the refinement and respectability of the Victorian era. And I guess like the reason why secret is put in this name is to like allude to the hidden like sexuality and lingerie behind Victoria. But I also feel like it's super ironic, the fact that it's called Victoria's Secret, and you know, this brand is this like straight brand all about like what men like find sexy. Meanwhile, it's filled with so much lesbianism. Let's talk about that. It's just super fucking ironic that the name of the brand is called Victoria's Secret. It's actually hilarious. So this episode, I'm going to be talking about like 3 major categories. First, the Victoria's Secret fantasy and how it's actually like hyper-femme queer culture. Then I'll be talking about specifically Sapphic Victoria's Secret angels and like rumored relationships between the angels, because it's actually crazy. This is pretty much like the modern sewing circle. And then I will talk about the Victoria's Secret fashion show and that whole spectacle, and how like it's pretty much like lesbian cruising that we all witness on TV, but like no one notices it because like of this context that we're supposed to think it's about men. Meanwhile, these girls look gay for each other and are gay for each other. Just like housekeeping wise, this episode is not going to dig into like homophobia, racism, sexism, fatphobia of the Victoria's Secret brand. Like there are so many controversies for the Victoria's Secret brand, and like the conversation of Victoria's Secret is, you know, expansive and we can have a lot of conversations, but I didn't want to distract from like the main juice of the episode. And also I'm going to be talking about like the hidden queerness of the brand, but I'm not like trying to argue that Victoria's Secret is actually like super good for queer people. That's not my theory, if you get what I mean. I think you get what I mean. Anyways, before we continue, on my Patreon, and I think at this point when I release this, it should also be on my Spotify as well, I have a bonus episode digging into the Easter eggs of the Fate of Ophelia music video. I haven't actually made a video before this about the Fate of Ophelia music video and really getting into like the theories about that video. So there's that for you if you want bonus content. And also I'm going to be going live for the Taylor Swift like docu-series, I think at least for the first episode, because I'm extremely excited and it comes out the night before her birthday. And so that's why I'm like, something might be happening. Additionally, you've heard me say before, you'll hear me say it again. Go subscribe to my YouTube if you're listening on audio, and rate me 5 stars, guys. You know, like, come on. Okay, that's it. Let's get into it. So the Victoria's Secret fantasy that we hear everyone talking about, the brand is like curating this fantasy and perfection of the woman form for men, which is super ironic because the company mostly makes lingerie for women, not for men. The idea is almost in a weird backwards way to attract men to want to see their wives like that in order to buy presents for their wives, even though the company, again, is mostly women's lingerie. I think that they did have at one point a collection for men and then like it went out of business or something, but like it's not for men. So that's why it's so funny that they care about creating a fantasy for men, because if anything, they should create a fantasy for women. Like they should want women to feel good about themselves. And when you feel good about yourself, you want to buy lingerie. So that's why the whole like idea of it is kind of like interesting, because it's not actually marketing anything really towards what women want. And again, there's been a shift the last few years in like terms of diversity and like body diversity, etc. But the general vibe of Victoria's Secret is making women want to look good and be sexually attractive for men. When you watch the Victoria's Secret fashion show, the idea is for you to say, I want to look like her, so that a man can think I'm as attractive as she is. That's the idea, right? Brand is a sexual fantasy, a straight fantasy, and how men view women sexually. The aesthetic is like pink, sexual, flirty, seductive. That's kind of like the aesthetic of Victoria's Secret. It's not really supposed to make women feel super empowered. And again, there's kind of been a shift, but like it's to look hot. It's not to feel like empowered. You know what I mean? People could argue that it is to feel empowered, but that's not really how they've branded Victoria's Secret, right? It's pillow fights, doing each other's makeup, etc. Like what men think girls' sleepovers are like is what the Victoria's Secret runways are like, what the photo shoots are like, what the visuals are like, etc. Right? And that's the fantasy. All of these beautiful, hot, skinny white women being perfect for men, but it doesn't actually really exist for men. What's ironic and funny about this is like, this is kind of what actual lesbian sleepover is like. In Victoria's Secret ads, like you can scroll through like decades of different ads, videos, like, you know, billboards, photo shoots, etc. And what's funny about it, because the whole idea of Victoria's Secret is like being attractive in terms of the male gaze, is that there's mostly just women there. There's not like a man around usually. It's usually a bunch of these models together, touching each other, caressing each other, like looking at each other seductively. And this is supposed to be for men, which makes it so fucking queer. Like without the cultural context of knowing that Victoria's Secret is like supposed to be straight, right? Like it's like the epitome of straight sexuality and like what men find attractive in women, right? Or that's the idea. Without the cultural awareness of that and the context of like knowing that, if you were like an alien that was sent down to Earth and you saw these girls touching each other and like, or maybe like even ChatGPT, and ChatGPT was told about lesbians, if you saw these ads, you would think this is a lesbian cult or this is a group of lesbian models, because there's no men in sight and they're just having pillow fights and doing each other's makeup in these photo shoots. It's like Barbie's dream house, but lesbian Victoria's Secret. And that's why it's so funny. Like inherently, Victoria's Secret is so sapphic and queer, because there's rarely any men. It's like the experience of being a queer girl in high school where you're making out with your friends, or college, you're making out with your girlfriends, and the idea is to like, you know, get men to think you're attractive, but actually you're just enjoying it, and you get to hide and be able to make out with girls without the homophobia that comes with that, because men happen to be turned on by that. That's the irony of queerness in popular media, especially when it comes with femmes, because you can hide in plain sight because men don't care about being homophobic if they are turned on, which is so dark. It's also like lesbian porn as well, and how like what is catered towards men in terms of like being attractive for them is also inherently gay. And just because men are turned on by it doesn't mean it's not gay. And that's really the crucial thing here. Queer women also experience like lingerie brands, specifically Victoria's Secret, differently than straight girls. Like you don't just want to feel hot, but also you have like a unique relationship with like stepping into Victoria's Secret store. Like we hear this all the time about growing up. Queer girls have this experience where you're like walking in the mall and you're trying not to make eye contact with the posters because it feels like you're gonna get like caught by like almost feeling like attracted. And that's what's so interesting about the Victoria's Secret experience for queer girls. It's a very different experience. It's not just about yourself, it's also feeling attracted to the idea of female sexuality that's branded for men. Yet it traps up so many queer girls. And like just because it's supposed to be straight doesn't mean it inherently is. Hot women together in lingerie will always be queer. Even if the idea and the marketability is for men, that doesn't strip away the fact that that's gay as hell when women in bras are like touching each other in a photo shoot. Like, I don't care, you know, it's gay. And the other thing is like, what does queer look like? I feel like that's another reason why we don't brand like femmes or, you know, feminine, girly pop, pink women that are scantily clad as queer. We see that for men. But what does queer look like? Queer doesn't actually have a look. However, there are subcultures within the LGBTQ community that is very represented in Victoria's Secret. For example, hyper-femininity, being hyper-femme or being a femme in general. This is the definition of hyper-femme: an exaggerated or intense expression of femininity going beyond conventional stereotypes to create a deliberately constructed and often stylized identity. This can include a strong focus on details and makeup, mannerisms, clothing, often worn as an act of self-expression and defiance against the male gaze as seen in online communities and queer culture. Men don't own femininity. We need to stop like giving them credit. Kind of like the American flag doesn't mean Trump, right? Like America is inherently diversity. Like we can't let them own these things for us. Hyper-femme, pink, flirty vibes, right, is not necessarily straight. It's actually, you could argue, more queer, because that's been a specific way of representation within the queer community. And I see this a lot of like, you know, femme, like lesbians or femme queer girls like talk about this online, where like being with a girl and being gay sometimes feels like the most feminine thing you can do. I feel most girly pop like with my girlfriend. And that's why it's ironic when there's kind of an erasure of like femme queers, at least in like picking up who could be gay and who could not be gay, because that feels so gay. Like if femininity equals womanhood and two women are together, that is like hypermax womanhood, in my opinion. Like doing your girlfriend's makeup, like getting ready together, like slumber parties. The Victoria's Secret fantasy is a lesbian relationship. And again, it's just so funny that like in all of these photo shoots, you know, besides sometimes when there's like male singers, the Victoria's Secret fashion show, like all of this is for women at the end of the day. Okay, let's talk about specific Victoria's Secret fashion models that are gay or rumored to be queer in some way, because it's actually a never-ending list. And of course, a lot of these people, you know, might come out later. Like there's people that are not even on this list that I was like, in terms of time, I can't talk about it all. But if you guys want me to like do a deep dive into any of these like, you know, relationships that occurred and, you know, what is alleged, let me know, because there's kind of a lot here. Pretty much Victoria's Secret, besides the fact that it's like gay because it's like hot women touching each other in bras and underwear on posters. Besides that fact, and you know, the subculture of it and hyperfemininity and all of that, there are so many VS angels and models that are actually out as queer that have all dated each other. And if you think about it, it kind of makes sense. And it's the perfect way, if you are trying to not be explicitly out, to hide that queerness, because no one expects these Victoria's Secret angels to be gay because they're so femme, which is so ironic because they're around naked women all the time. It's like the perfect breeding ground. It's like a sorority. It's the homosocial behavior of a sorority, yet more naked. And we're like, wait, they're gay? It's like, yes, guys. So to start it off, we're going to start with Karlie Kloss. Karlie Kloss, obviously, as you guys know, has had a rumored off and on relationship with Taylor Swift. And there have been other muses that she's been linked to as well that are women. You know, a lot of people think that she's in a bearded relationship with her husband. And there's just so, I mean, I can't get into all of the Taylor stuff right now, but like Carly Kloss is definitely part of this, right? Also, for context, when I mentioned like the sewing circle, that is like an informal group that happened in old Hollywood of these actresses that like kind of slept all together. So pretty much this whole group is like Taylor Swift's squad from like 2013 to like 2017, right? All of her friends that were like all gay and all Victoria's Secret models. It's hilarious. So Cara Delevingne is known as like that girl that like if another celebrity is spotted with her alone or at dinner, it's their unofficial coming out, because Cara Delevingne has gotten around, and it's not even funny. Cara Delevingne is out as queer. She has been linked to, and I say linked to because it's not like confirmed that they dated, but like they kind of did though. Like they pretty much did. And what does confirmed even mean in pop culture? She's been linked to Paris Jackson, Miley Cyrus, Rita Ora, Ashley Benson has been confirmed. Like they were in a long-term relationship. She was also in a relationship with Saint Vincent. Cara Delevingne was also linked to Selena Gomez. There's a theory that they dated, and also linked to Taylor Swift. There's a rumor that they like, you know, had maybe a friends with benefits situation. And listen, if you're hanging with Cara Delevingne all the time and you're Taylor Swift and you're single and bisexual, it's not the craziest thing. Stella Maxwell is one of my favorite BS models that I feel like no one talks about, because love her. She's so hot and she's just so unapologetically gay. She was never really ever in the closet. She just like started talking about the girls she dated and LGBTQ activism, and never said like, oh, this is my exact identity. At least I didn't see that in my research. But she is openly LGBTQ. And I think that's so important to remember when we talk about queerness and pop culture, is that like way more people openly LGBTQ without saying their exact identity. When Stella Maxwell just started dating women, she's LGBTQ. That's her coming out. Like in order to come out, you don't have to state like why and when you found out and like what your identity is, etc. I think she's a very good example of like a femme that just started dating girls, openly dated girls, and then was like, yeah, duh, I'm queer. I just feel like she's not talked about enough. But she's been linked to many VS angels and other women in general. She's just like such an icon. She had a relationship with Kristen Stewart, fucking iconic. She had a relationship with Miley Cyrus, which was extremely iconic. I'm gonna put up this picture that like I think about all the time, of them like next to Miley Cyrus's tour bus, like making out in a pap shot. She also has been linked to Barbara Palvin, who was a model and now is a Victoria's Secret angel. I'm pretty sure they've been linked to each other. So yeah, like guys, when you're hanging around all these hot lesbians, having sleepovers with, and like going out and on the job and like getting close with and working with all of these hot queer women, you're probably gonna at least experiment. And that's what I really don't like about how we talk about queerness. We act like it's this binary that like you are straight and you have not ever been with a person of the same sex, or you are like gay, and if you have not come out, that means you are in the closet, and if you are out, that means you are out and proud. It's like so many people are in general queer and aren't making special little statements to you, the fans, that are operatingly not like as closeted people, but just acting as they would in real life. And that's kind of what Victoria's Secret is. Like, it's not necessarily like intentionally hidden, but it's so easily hidden by the context of Victoria's Secret and the fact that it's like for the male gaze, that no one thinks about these hot femmes touching each other because they don't view it as serious. And that maybe is a whole other conversation about like how historically lesbian sex has not been criminalized in the same way that like gay men's sex has been criminalized before throughout history. And it's because it's not viewed as legit or like threatening to men because there's no penis involved. And that's like a whole other conversation. But I think that that's the reason why men aren't threatened by the idea of like, oh, their girlfriend's hooking up with a girl on the side. Or that's why when they see the Victoria's Secret models like, you know, playing with each other's hair, they're like, oh, that's for us. That's not them just inherently liking each other, because they don't see it as literally legit. They don't think that that's a thing. They think it's like for fun. Like, it's actually fucked up. But anyways, Stella Maxwell has also been linked to Lily Rose Depp before she started dating Timothée Chalamet. And she's also been linked and rumored to be with Taylor Hill, who's also Victoria's Secret model. So at this point, you guys, Taylor Hill, Barbara, Stella, Cara, Harley, like, we're already at 5 Victoria's Secret angels that, like, have been publicly probably, you know, dating women. And these are the most famous ones. And I'm not even done. That's crazy. And I just feel like no one talks about it. And the fact that the common denominator is Victoria's Secret. Okay, finally with Stella Maxwell, she was also linked to Bella Hadid. Now, there are leaked pictures, like, they're not fully nude, of this like home photo shoot of them like making out that I'm obviously not gonna post here, but like those were released that like it's very clear they were together, and like this is not like a constructed photo shoot for a brand. It's like, you know, for their own fun. They also there were reports of them making out in public, like at a party in between Bella Hadid's like getting back together with The Weeknd. But Bella Hadid has also been rumored to be queer. Every family has one. Gigi Hadid has also been rumored to be queer. I think at the end of the day, a lot of these bitches are gay. And just because they haven't like told you their sexuality doesn't mean it's not happening, and doesn't mean that they're closeted, right? Stella's gotten a lot of bitches. Love that for her. Then we move on to Lily Donaldson. Lily Donaldson is someone that has been rumored to have dated Taylor Swift and, you know, is also rumored to be dating Taylor Swift right now. I need to get into the Tilly lore. Like, I haven't made an episode about it. I'm not as hip to it, but I am absolutely going to make an episode about it because I think it could make sense if like Taylor has been using Carly as like a fake muse. Meanwhile, she has her actual wife over here, and it's Lily Donaldson. Lily Donaldson, Victoria's Secret angel, rumored relationship with Taylor Swift. There's a lot there, and we will dig into the lore together on this podcast at some point. Then we have Kendall Jenner, who at this point is so publicly rumored to be queer, like it's not even funny. She was linked to her good friend Lauren Perez, also linked to Hailey Bieber. You know, Hailey and Kendall and Justin, that may be a love triangle, and like it absolutely is a love triangle. Kendall has also been linked to Bella Hadid. Like, they had pictures kissing on the mouth. So these are like all of Victoria's Secret models, guys. A lot of them have publicly dated women in like long-term relationships, and I feel like no one talks about it. And then the others have been linked to the girls that have had public long-term relationships with other women, or like have pictures kissing on the mouth. And everyone's like, oh, Victoria's Secret, you know, it's all for men. These are straight girls. And I feel like I'm going crazy. Just because they're femme doesn't mean they're not gay. Sometimes it means you're more likely to be gay. Guys, that was so crazy because I literally just got a notification. My camera turned off and it was like storage full. And then I had to turn the camera off, turn the audio off, restart everything, go delete files, come back here. Crazy. Anyway, what I was saying begs the question, why are there so many Saphics in the Victoria's Secret franchise? Why are there so many in this industry that like promotes heterosexuality? You know, it's not like they have overt, on purpose, gay themes, right? The idea is very much like men go buy these things for your wives. Some of the argument is just like that there's a lot of gay people in general, and I feel like people don't know that. But because all the stats are like 10% of the population, bitch, I hate stats because I feel like it's never fucking accurate. I haven't been polled on my sexuality. Have you? So like, where are these coming from? Also, these are people that are publicly out. B, will state their sexuality. C, not afraid of homophobia. The amount of people that are out that just like haven't actually said that to a person asking them if they're gay. You know what I mean? Anyways, the point is that there's two parts of Victoria's Secret, right? It's the marketing versus the actual industry. Victoria's Secret, it's a brand. It's almost like the making of a movie. It is a fantasy. And I think that's something we talk about a lot on this podcast, is like pop culture and the reality of it, and not what they want us to know about it. Because I love pop culture. I think it's really interesting, and messaging doesn't always mean evil. A lot of people want the fantasy. Like Disney creates a fantasy of a movie, right? It doesn't mean that, I mean, there's a lot of fair complaints about Disney. But it doesn't mean that creating something like in order to market something in some way is evil. But I think it's interesting to point out and talk about the realities of pop culture and what the industry is actually like beyond what they promote for people to publicly consume. A lot of people just don't want to hear that. A lot of people just want to buy into the straight fantasy or whatever something or a company or film or a celebrity tells us what they're supposed to be like. And if you don't want to actually dig deeper into things, that's fine. But it doesn't mean that there is nothing to peel back. The whole point of entertainment is to entertain us and to give us a very specific vision. That doesn't mean that those people are actually like the vision that they're creating and are scripted and they're playing a role of like a straight girl, right? Doesn't mean they are one. The promotion is for the public, which is a much more straight and conservative vibe than the actual fashion industry, which is like taking place in New York, Milan, Los Angeles, like they're creating products for women around the world and across the country that are not all New York City living women, They're women that might have husbands that are conservative and stay at home. They're not going to reveal how lesbian the nature of this company is, right? And also there's a lot to be said for the fashion industry, like kind of being run by gay men. And it's men in general, like there should be a lot more women like running shit. And a lot more lesbian women too. But these industries are taking place in big liberal cities that are making entertainment and products and brands for the rest of the country. And that's where I think people forget that like marketing is so huge here. So Victoria's Secret, like I said before, is a homosocial and a homosexual sapphic environment. It is like a sorority where everyone is scantily clad and doing photo shoots together. They're spending a lot of time with other women that are all in lingerie, doing these shoots that are like touching each other and like caressing each other. That is a homosocial sexual environment that is bound to create homosexuality. It's kind of like how locker room culture is also kind of gay culture, and that there's actually a lot of gay guys in sports and you can kind of like get away with it because you're kind of like hitting each other in the locker room. I mean, I don't know what guys do, but like homosocial environments that are like they're almost supposed to be straight are perfect breeding ground. And I say breeding ground like it's a bad thing. It's a great thing of gayness. It creates a gay culture because it's not out of the ordinary to touch someone or be around someone nudely. And you can kind of experiment safely without anyone thinking, oh my God, that's gay of you. Why would you do that? Because you're a Victoria's Secret model. You're supposed to be like caressing the other girls in bras and underwear. And it also might make you realize something about yourself. Like it just makes sense that this is the most sapphic environment and why there are so many sapphics actively hooking up and dating within fashion, but specifically with Victoria's Secret. And, the hyper femme aesthetic of Victoria's Secret is created for the male gaze. That aesthetic inherently involves sapphic sexuality. So not only is like the sapphicness hidden by the fact that it's supposed to be for the male gaze, but what men actually want is ironically already queer women. Those queer women probably don't want them. But the branding of what men want is multiple women with each other in a sapphic way, which is fucked up. But men interpret lesbianism as something for them, almost for their entertainment, for their amusement. These visuals that are catered towards men, ironically, are also catered towards lesbians because at the base of it, it is women being sexual with each other. And when I say like sexual with each other, I don't mean that they're obviously like making out in these campaigns, but they're being close with each other. Like, I mean, I've had pictures throughout this episode. If you're watching on YouTube, that's gay, guys. That is gay. So overt sapphic sexual themes are hidden by the male gaze, which views female sexuality as something less real and more for the purpose of turning on men. So it really is like this strange irony going on that makes it profitable with men, but also like is in turn at its core gay. Okay, before we end the episode, I also just really wanted to talk about the Victoria's Secret fashion show. It's been so big for pop culture, and they went away because of all this controversy, and they came back and tried to improve in diversity. And for the 2025 Victoria's Secret fashion show, they definitely did improve for diversity, but the basis of the idea of the Victoria's Secret fashion show is still the same thing, right? It's almost like entertainment for like the world. Men get to see hot women. Women get to be like, I want to look like that. I want to look like that. That's the idea of the Victoria's Secret fashion show. And then we have these amazing performers. But what we see on stage, and I'm going to disregard the male performers that have been on stage because usually they like, you know, are gross and like look at the women's butts and it's like disgusting. And like, obviously that's kind of like the intention of Victoria's Secret. But what ends up happening is when we have these female performers on stage, we get this same sapphicness of the models together when we have the photo shoots, right? We see women in heels and lingerie walking down a runway, holding eye contact and reaching out for these female performers. And when we have this culture where, you know, these women are supposed to be desirable walking the runway, but then you put a woman musician, they're not like having fun, just like girly pops. It's giving gay cruising. It's giving that like they're doing a show for the girl performer. And unintentionally, we see very lesbian moments of these female musicians and flirting with the lingerie clad models walking down the runway, almost like they're putting on a show for them. It's like these women musicians are playing the role of these men in the context of Victoria's Secret and how they're supposed to be desiring these girls walking down the runway for them. It's an amazing situation to watch. And the few that stand out to me, and I'll end with the most important one, obviously, are first up Lady Gaga. When she performed for the VS Fashion Show, you know, Lady Gaga is openly queer, obviously, and makes music for queer people. Like, she's eyeing up and down the girls in kind of her alter ego way. She has another outfit change where she's wearing like more of like a black, kind of like more masculine outfit. And then there's another time where she's like wearing a dress, eyeing up and down the girls and like giving them double takes and giving them look up and downs. And I'm like, this is so important to see this like on like, I don't know where this was, national television, right? Of this gay performance of what is usually supposed to be a man looking up and down women clad in lingerie. And again, let's remember these models walking down are all probably gay. So it's really fun to see, but then again, it's disguised as being for the male gaze. And so that's not gay, you know, because this is Victoria's Secret. Duh, they're femme, you know? We also see Ariana Grande at the VS Fashion Show in 2014. And, you know, maybe I need to do an Ariana Grande episode because there's been a lot of queer rumors with her. She sang that song, like, I Like Women and Men. She sang this with Victoria Monet. It's called Monopoly, but like she sings I Like Women and Men. So I just think that that's like pretty clear, like clearer than anything Taylor Swift has done. But of course, people will still say she's just singing a song. And it's like, why? Why can't Ariana Grande be gay? Because she looks femme? Because that's usually like the reasoning when it comes down to it. But she performed at the VS Fashion Show and we see her like shimmying and like looking up the girls too. And it's not in the most like male way, in the way that Lady Gaga was almost like mimicking the way a man would do it. But that doesn't mean it's not gay. And how women are attracted to each other is inherently girly poppy. Like attraction between women doesn't have to replicate attraction between men and women. And so that's what's really interesting about Victoria's Secret too, because we assume that like sexuality and the way we think about it with heterosexual attraction is very much like there's a power dynamic. Like the man is the one chasing and being like, you know, eyeing the girl up and down. And she's like the deer prancing around being hot, right? That doesn't have to be how it is between two women. And I think that disguises a lot of like sapphicness for a lot of things in pop culture, but specifically with Victoria's Secret, because we think if they're two girly pops, they can't possibly be attracted to each other. But I feel like Ariana Grande's performance is kind of a good example of this, is like, what is a woman being attracted to another woman? it can look like these are just two girly pops like shimmying each other, but they're like dancing for each other. That's gay. Okay, finally, we have the most iconic Victoria's Secret fashion show performance of all time. And I mean, there were two performances, right? Or 2 years, Karlie Kloss and Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift, specifically, how she interacted with Karlie Kloss. The VS fashion shows of 2013 and 2014. And I was watching the 2014 one when I was like setting up for this episode. But one of the parts is literally called Dream Girls, and then she performs. And it just makes me think of an argumentative, antithetical dream girl. And of course, her and Karlie Kloss have meaningful glances and stares and are holding hands. I mean, in 2014, Taylor actually walks holding hands with Karlie Kloss down the runway. And watching other performances, you can realize that this is not common, that the performer is holding hands with one person, one angel, walking down the VS runway. You can just see that there's something between Taylor and Karlie, and they're like kind of smirking about it, but also kind of nervous about it. 2013, you can see a little bit more nervousness. And 2014, you can see a lot more confidence and like, oh my God, we're hiding something. It's just so clear. And it's just like the pinnacle of like what Victoria's Secret Sapphic-ness is that these two girls like are gay for each other. And no one knows because of the assumption that they're both straight because they're femme and walking the VS runway that is for men. And yet in the most ironic place to fall in love with another girl, they do. And it's just kind of beautiful. And they probably did, allegedly fell in love. I don't know. Taylor is like literally touching, holding hands with, and gesturing towards half naked women the entire time. Like, come on. Multiple of these models she is rumored to be dating or hooked up with, right? At the 2014 behind the scenes fashion show, Taylor says about like being behind the scenes and all these girls coming to her trailer. She says, quote, and they're all wearing these robes, by the way. It's like an actual fantasy. For who, bitch? You. Like, she was caught in 4K. She also has lyrics referencing the Victoria's Secret fashion shows, a lot of references, honestly, and her music videos. Like Karlie Kloss before the Victoria's Secret fashion show is doing a ballet dance kind of like ad in the theater that Taylor Swift uses for the set of the Fate of Ophelia music video. Like 100%, like it's not doubted. She also has a lyric in You Aren't in Love. She says, you two are dancing in a snow globe round and round. And there's a performance on the VS fashion show where I think it's called Snow Angels, and Taylor is performing and snow is falling down as she is dancing and gesturing towards Karlie Kloss, right? Snow globe. We also have Gold Rush, quote, walk past, quick brush. I don't like slow motion, double vision, and a rose blush. That's, could be a reference to both Taylor and Karlie wearing rose blush outfits walking down the runway. Slow motion, quick brush, walk past her. Like, shut up. Like, it's unreal. We also have when she's walking down the runway with Karlie Kloss, they're on a checkerboard runway. And then, of course, we have the checkerboard callback during the Eras tour where she is holding hands with her dancer and walking down the runway. A checkerboard runway. It's like not even funny. Like, I don't know how anyone disputes this. So the point is that there's a lot of times where there's been some gay cruising on the Victoria's Secret runway. And I know that that's usually a term like for gay men, but I think that like lesbians should like maybe come up with their own or use it as well. Because it really is what it is. It's like these girls walking down, checking out other girls, trying to figure out who to date. And then they do date. So, in conclusion, Victoria's Secret is that she is sapphic. The culture is sapphic. What it is inherently hides the sapphicness, the secret of the queerness behind the male gaze, because men are too fucking dumb to realize how gay Victoria's Secret is. And at the end of the day, the models themselves are gay too. That is my episode for you. Hope you guys have a great next 2 weeks before my next episode. Reminder, I do post bi-weekly, so if you need more content in between, go to my Patreon or my Spotify for some bonus content. And yeah, that's it. Just a reminder to go rate me 5 stars, subscribe on my YouTube. Please, love you. Thanks. Bye.